for those that weren't here last night, I called a special meeting of the City Council for Monday night at 6:30 to discuss and take action on the new tentative agreement for the ERS contract. So that'll be at 6:30, so we renoticed the budget hearings, and they'll begin at 7 o'clock or immediately following our special meeting. Also, the special meeting notice for May the 3rd for our meeting to approve the budget and set the mill rate. So those two things have been noticed. Also, you have in front of you the summary of the tentative agreement for ERS and the actual entire tentative agreement, so you can take that with you and take a look at it prior to Monday's meeting. The clerk is taking a final exam tonight, so I'm the clerk. I'm actually recording, so I just want to let you know that's why she's absent this evening. I excused her. And with that said, I'll turn the meeting over to Finance Councilwoman Martone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First up, we have Controller Purchasing Risk Management.
You got enough for everybody.
Sorry, oops.
I'm sorry, Linda.
Do you want to go first? You can. Yeah, why don't you
No, I
go?
thought you wanted
No,
to
you
do
go
the-
ahead.
Okay, 'cause
You go
I
ahead.
wasn't sure if I misunderstood today.
No,
so
no,
I
you
don't
go
wanna-
ahead.
How about Oz Stevens?
Well, I think I might have misunderstood.
Or do I have to go over there?
Thank you, Mrs. Chairman.
Or you're up.
Good, how are you? Should I state my name and address, or not necessary?
I don't think it's necessary. But, do you want to address the council before we ask you any questions?
No, I don't, ma'am. No, I don't.
Okay. So with the finance department first, does anybody have any questions?
Just a point there, I do handle two different budgets. I handle risk in purchasing, but I also handle central services.
Page of that on.
52.
51 and 52.
Has everybody got the pages? Yep. Okay, so, no one in finance has any questions? Councilman Charney?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Mr. Sandella, I'm just trying to figure out more about you're the assistant purchasing agent / risk manager?
Yes.
That's two positions? Or was it two positions at one time?
It was two positions at one time. I want to say maybe prior to 92, 93.
So it was
somewhere
consolidated at one point?
At some point, yeah, I wasn't here.
And that's the only position in this department?
Currently, yes.
There's no, the admin clerk, is that an open position, or that just?
Hang on one second, let me just get to that, because me and Linda discussed it today, and I just want to make sure I'm referring to the right position. Yes, there was the individual who was in the position, and then in the prior administration, they were going to rework that position, lower the number of hours, and use some of that money to move over to another position that was becoming vacant in the finance office. And then the decision was made to just eliminate it completely.
So after that, it just, the position you're currently in, that's the only position in that office?
I do my own administrative work,
Okay.
if that's your question.
Yes.
Yes.
And what does your position do specifically?
All risk and purchasing related matters, from meeting OSHA training, setting up training for the employees, handling the safety committee, working on the workers' comp along with the TPA and attorney gunning at a lower level until it gets to the hearing level. Any FEMA related matters, the snowstorm, there's a currently an audit from Storm Sandy, so on and so forth. Any matters related to risk in purchasing, any training of employees.
Is that I'm assuming it's generally a full-time job. You
I'll
keep pretty
let
busy?
you all make that decision.
Okay. But you're also in charge of central services?
Yes.
And we have a printer, and that's who I believe keeps print, that's Edgar, I believe?
A printer.
The admin assistant slash printer under central services?
That's Mr. Gifford.
Oh. Where's Edgar falling out? He was our printer.
I don't know
Oh,
who
where's
it
our
is.
business cards? Oh, Pont, sorry. Where's Edgar from?
Don't know the name.
The department, have they, it looks like they don't use their overtime. It's not a big line item, but they don't really use that line item.
No, not really. I mean, here and there, depending, and generally it's used at budget time, depending on the books, there's always a last minute, so.
Alright, that is all.
Thank you. Does anyone in finance have any questions? Councilman Sorrow?
Robert, oh, I see postage over here.
Yes.
64,000, the mayor for 75,000 you asked for. What do you mail out?
We do all city mail, any city mail, any mail that goes out. The registrar does a big mailing each year for their canvassing. Any mail that leaves the building goes through that postage account. And there's hundreds of pieces a day.
Yeah, you know, the bills and stuff like that.
Yeah. That doesn't include, and we had this discussion today with the finance director, that no longer includes the tax office mailing. That's why that's been significantly reduced over the past couple of years.
All right, I gotta ask you a big question. I know this was happening. When people get paid and somebody takes something out of their own pocket and they submit a bill, and this was happening for quite a while, you would mail the individual the check. Why can't we put the check with the individual that took money out of his pocket in his payroll check? In other words, separate checks, but
Correct. Generally, we do try to do that. If I know it's taking place, or if Ginny Bennett knows it's taking place, she'll generally try to add it into
going out for
whatever.
many years. I figured we could save some money here as far as postage.
Sure, sure, makes sense.
That's all I got, really. See how much here?
Anyone else in finance?
I just have a really simple question. Coffee and water, 5,000. Oh, I'm sorry. Coffee and water, 5,000. For whom? For whom? Is it just for everyone in general? Is it in the lobby? Is it for employees?
It's generally for employees. The water, each water's at all locations, and then they have like a centralized coffee where if you have a pot, the city takes care of that part of it. Anything else you bring, whether it's
So
cream.
the bill for the water is what? Billed monthly?
Yes.
Like at what rate? It's
For a 5-gallon container of the bottled water for Crystal Rock, we pay $2. Crystal Rock's been bought now, so they're coming back to us saying it may be $2.99 going forward.
okay. And coffee.
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I'd have to check on that. That's through Omar. I'd have to check on that. I don't know the price off the top of my head.
So you think you could get like a cheaper coffee or something? I don't know.
I don't, between all of us, I don't know that that's the city's obligation for fear of my fellow employees eating me up. I mean, I don't, I certainly can try to get a better price. I could certainly attempt to get a better price.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
That's it.
That's it. Rich, did you have something?
I'm seeing here the copier rental, the request was 50,000, it got cut down to 45,000. Was that a contractual obligation, the 50,000, or was there cost savings there?
No, currently the copiers were, at one point, they were a lease to own. The lease was up and we've owned them for about the past, almost since I've been in this position, 3.5 years. We did put it out into December, we're just waiting for that to be awarded and clear that matter up. Right now, on copier contracts, what happens is you pay a click charge, and that goes up and down depending on how many clicks. And as the machines get older, there's a little bit of an escalating clause in there. So, because naturally, the maintenance for the machine becomes more as they're older. Some of the machines now are approaching 500,000 copies. It's, you know, probably time for us to wrap that up.
Go ahead, Chief. I closed first.
One question. He brought it up. The copy machines, we own them now? I mean, you own them at the end of the lease?
This group we do, yes, with the exception of the finance one. That's on a new lease because that machine just completely went.
So we do lease them though, right? Are we going out?
I think it's a good idea to lease them going forward, Councilman.
It's a lot better because the maintenance is included and everything else. The only thing you got to
Correct.
pay extra is for how many copies you make.
Correct. And I know, you know, it was, and I know in the past, in the prior administration, prior finance director, it was a little cheaper to have the maintenance agreement in place, but the machines are getting older, the costs are escalating, and, you know, when the machine goes down, and if it's a major problem for the company, sometimes it takes 2 and 3 days. The finance office, when that machine went, we didn't have a copy machine for a week until a decision was made. So, you know, there's a cost inherent in that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something to look into. Lease is better. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mercer?
Yes. Do you supervise employees in your position?
I have supervisory responsibility over the central services individual, and now I share supervisor responsibility over the mail person / that job that was created. I'll oversee the mail part of it, but she largely works for the finance director and takes most of the direction from the finance office because that's a priority. There's money coming in and so on.
Office supplies, I see took a cut. Do you think that's a realistic cut or?
That's going to be a difficult one. We're probably going to, according to my year to date, we're probably going to spend what was allocated. That's going to be a difficult cut. I may be able to offset it in another area in this budget under other supplies, but that's a difficult one.
And then just tagging the tax office, can you just explain about I didn't realize they were doing their own mail. How did that come about, the tax office?
Oh, that was done a couple years ago. What we did internally was we had the folder inserter in the basement. And if you recall, you get your tax bill around June 26th. And then you come to City Hall and there'd be a line all the way from the tax office all the way down to the ladies' room. So in looking at it, when we changed over from the old wall system to QDS, QDS offered the ability to print the bills and mail the bills. It just made more sense to us under the old wall system doing it ourselves. You know, we literally had to dedicate 4 people, the IT person, the Crystal who's no longer here, and a couple of other people, 2 weeks to get the mail together. They'd have a big pile of mail in the hall down there. They'd have to put it, the maintenance guys would have to bring it to the processing center and walk. It was a horrible process. And then it would create a big backlog in the tax office. So when we looked at it with Leslie, we said, hey, listen, this makes sense to us to outsource it to QDS. They can get the bills out much earlier. It stretches out the line so there's not that big long line. And the tax office doesn't get bogged down. So it just made sense from that standpoint.
At one point, they were leasing Pitney Bowes. It was some ridiculous amount of money. What happened to that piece of equipment? Is that still down there or?
Well, the mail machine is still there. That mail machine is 10 years old. So I think at some point, and I know what you're referring to, they've given us the mail machine. It's an old technology. We have a maintenance contract on it. I think it's $1,800 a year, the mail part of it. The folder inserter's been changed over to a much smaller one because we're not doing big mailings like that anymore. We still do some of the delinquent notices for the tax office, some of those supplemental bills for the tax office we had to do, some stuff for the assessor's office, so we have a much smaller one that's cheaper. Back then, the contract was $90,000 a year, whatever it was.
Yeah,
because
it was absurd.
Yeah.
Right.
And as far as the folder inserter Pitney Bowes, that's an older technology as well. So they're willing to give us that one if we're willing to take out a maintenance contract on it.
Plus, that contract never went out to bid, that Pitney Bowes contract, never went out to bid. So,
The original one,
the original one.
I wasn't here.
Anyone else have any questions?
So Rob, I want to, so you're the assistant purchasing agent. At some point, was there a purchasing agent?
I think the charter and city code recognizes the finance director as the ultimate purchasing authority.
I'm just trying to think back. I remember we had a full-time risk manager not too long ago and a full-time assistant purchasing agent. So I guess I'm looking at it appears that, your position went from full-time to part-time. Is that correct?
My understanding, yes.
So you're the risk manager and the purchasing agent. How many bids and things of that nature do you typically have to put together in a given month? Does it vary or?
Yeah, it varies depending on time of the year and, you know, it's been much busier lately.
My concern obviously is that work will be delayed. And also I don't know what the city's insurance carrier would say if we have a part-time risk manager. But, so those things concern me somewhat. I'm not asking you to respond, obviously, it's your position, so, okay. No. I'm okay with that part for now. So this is another one. So, you know, the central services, so we've talked a lot about how do we combine services. And to me, this seems like this would be a service that's ripe for combination with the Board of Education. Can you tell me a little bit about central services and yeah, I know that you have one employee there and they make large orders for different offices in City Hall. I'm looking for some type of quantity, or can you give me examples of the typical workday in central services?
Typical workday. I mean, typical workday. He's busy every day. Today he was doing police department comp sheets, larger signs for street sweeping. He was doing business cards. Just recently, we did the assessors, some information for the assessor's office. I think there was about 1,800 pieces. We did the notices for personal property recently. He's busy most of the week. I mean, is there an opportunity to combine it at some point? Sure, I would guess there is, but if you take it out of the building and you combine it, because at one point, that office, as you may well be aware, was at Malloy School.
Right.
It was inconvenient, it was difficult, and I don't know if you want to combining the services, you're going to get behind the Board of Education, which does massive amounts of printing. And I don't know from a convenience standpoint and a common sense standpoint if that really works for you.
I'm not sure it would either. I was just asking the question.
No, I'm just thinking at it practically. I understand
Yeah.
your question, and I understand the need to combine services, but, and especially some of our stuff with the tax bills and the assessor information, some of the other stuff, the tax notices, the lien notice, that's time-sensitive stuff, so I don't know, without a substantial amount of planning, as I learned dealing with the Board of Education, that, if your print gets caught in with theirs.
Yeah, no, understood. And listen, you're not the only one that I have or I will continue to ask that question of. I think, as there's an opportunity, we're at a time now where we have to, I believe, start thinking about we've talked a lot of years, how do you combine services, right? Do we really need a separate office for this or that, or what's the Board of Ed doing with their fields as opposed to what the city's doing with their fields? And so we've had this discussion for many years, and, you know, I think at some point we just have to stop the discussion and take the action, so.
Sure, I think on some of the, and I think we've had this discussion before here, I think on some of the trades positions is really,
Right,
and I'm just
right.
giving my opinion, I'm veering out of my lane, but on some of the trades position is probably the biggest opportunity to have that service both. You know, you're talking electricians, plumbers, that's expensive when you have to outsource it. And I'm saying that just because I see it coming through the purchase order system, or the voucher system, that is supposed to be a purchase order system. So I see those numbers coming through, and that, you know, that would be probably the biggest opportunity. That's all outsourced.
And then I know that Councilman Charney asked the question, but I'm still unclear. So the administrative clerk, it was 39,125, is now zeroed out. That's a vacant position?
That was a vacant position,
That's
correct.
vacant.
Because I believe, and I don't have it in front of me, I believe you see another position there for 52, or there was a position there for 52 change, if I'm correct?
Under your department?
Yes, under purchasing.
46.
So there was,
46.
yes, that was,
Purchasing secretary.
right, for those of you who know, that was Darlene. And then when she had retired, they were gonna change some of the duties around, shift some of the money over to another position. They created this other position that was gonna pick up part of those purchasing duties, but then it was decided to eliminate that position.
Thank you.
No, just to tag off, the central services also does like all our envelopes, so they return envelopes for like the city council. or-
Correct, pretty much anything
Yeah.
you see printed.
So, I mean, it is
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever do your own? The
the
city,
city, the city does our own.
you do your
We,
own,
that's what he does, like, he'll put the return addresses, or, you know, he does the,
that's what he did.
Right, central services handles all that.
can't use the letterheads, they're still printed.
All right, can we stay on track,
Yeah.
please? Thank you.
No, because at one time, when I worked for the Board of Ed, before they went to Malloy School, let me tell you something, I really do think that it's an inconvenience because the teachers used to be able to get their copies right there and then. Now they have to send it out.
Correct.
They need 500 copies, they have to wait 3 days to get the copies to a guy to deliver to bring them back. And
Correct.
to me, I've never understood, for the life of me, anyway.
It's a very cumbersome system. When we put it out to bid a couple of years ago, I did work with Matt and Neil, and I understand why they centralized it, but the teachers have to get in line, place their order, and if there's a problem, it's difficult to correct. But they're doing millions of copies a year. I mean, you know, we're not doing that, but for them, it is
They
an,
just have to, the secretary
it's
to
cumbersome.
copy them and so on. Okay, does anybody else have any questions before I go? I gotta have to ask the question though, because if there's only you in this department, are you gonna be able to do this part-time?
No.
No. So there's nobody else there but you? No. So what will happen to the work?
Ma'am, I don't make that decision. I don't know.
So what will, well, then maybe I can ask you, so in your daily duties, what will not be done?
Well, a number of things.
Such
You know, such as the bids won't be done on time. You know, I create the vendor numbers. I'm the only one who creates vendor numbers. You would have to wait for that. And just the flow of information between the workers' comp people, any other insurances, any other insurance certificates that have to go out. I mean, we'll do what we can do in the course of the day.
And how long has this other position not been there for?
Which one?
The one that's the administrative, the purchasing secretary?
It's been vacant for over a year now.
So the purchasing secretary that made the $46,000?
Correct,
Okay,
correct.
and so then this administration clerk, how long has that not been there?
It's never been filled.
It's never been.
That was the new one that was
So out
created.
for years.
No, I think it was only created last year or something.
So it was created, but it was never filled.
Correct.
Okay, so then it was just you and then this other person, up until a year ago.
Right, she's been gone for a year, so for a year it's been myself.
All right, that's all I have. Does anybody else have any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so.
What happened?
Yeah, finance. Hi, how are you? ask, the finance director, I would like to just address the mayor for 1 second. Just only because I've had so many people asking so many questions, and even council members. Are you going to be forwarding to us, if you wanna call it a revised budget, or changes you'd like made in your budget? Are you gonna be forwarding that to us? And
I
if
would
so,
be
when?
presenting it, like, in other words, bringing it forward, giving you a copy, and then going through it line item by line item to see if we could get 9 votes.
Do you know when that's gonna happen?
No, I don't. I'm working on it every single day,
Okay,
and
the only reason why I'm asking that is because, as you are aware,
Mhm.
before you know it, next week, it's Monday, and then the MARB is on the 3rd, and then we're supposed to deliberate. So what I'm trying to do for everyone here is to give them a little bit of, if you're gonna have any insight to this budget before we start making our actions. So you have no idea when you're gonna come up with that.
I'm working every day. That's all I can tell you, every day,
So
because
it is
there's,
possible that you won't have it before deliberations.
oh, if you're saying before May the 3rd, no, I'll have the budget before May the 3rd. I absolutely will, before the final night of deliberations. But there's a lot of research that needs to go into this each and every day, plus the revenue figures change, and that's what I'm waiting on now, that as I said, I'll get it either tonight or tomorrow morning, because they proposed, the Democrats proposed a budget, the Republicans proposed a budget, so they're not gonna, just so everyone knows, you're not gonna have definite figures unless they vote early until May the 9th, so that's after your deliberations also. And as I said earlier, I don't know what the resolution is gonna be that the MARB is going to look to put through, but there's some sort of resolution that's going to, that's the purpose. One of the purposes, because I haven't seen an agenda of the meeting that they have scheduled now for Monday at 1 o'clock. So I'm treading new water too. It's different, and this is completely different than anything else that's ever been here before. Because in the past, when the other time, and Linda could expound more, they came on site and kind of did the work here and helped you with the work. The problem is here, as you know, we have cut positions and we've got them in finance. So quite frankly, there's like not a lot of people you can say, well, go and do this. There's a few of us. Plus we also had, I don't want to say the flu, but part of